So first of all, just welcome to everybody. And so you must be wondering, why there is a gray-haired person in a teenage, conference. So what I'll do is, stay behind the scene and try to engage these three young people, to really see, what they have to offer us. So now, just based on Larissa's, presentation, I want, I don't know, I'm sure you have a piece of, paper or a pen in front of you, to start making some notes as to what it means to be empowered. And so, these are notes that you want to then share, with your friends, with your colleagues, as we proceed, through this session. So, without wasting any time, let me just, build on what Larissa, just mentioned. And so, one of the things that we always worry about in empowering people is the way we tend to generalize problems. Now, let me tell you what that means. We take a case study, we take a particular event, and then we generalize it. So how many of you feel that Nepal is full of rapists and every woman, lives in a hut, when they menstruate? Do you think this happens across the country? Do you think Nepal is full of rapists? And it should not be safe to walk outside the hotel here? No? It's not, that easy, right? So now let me, ask Larissa, and we can start here. So in terms of your own life and your presentation, how have you empowered yourself to keep yourself safe, from some of the issues that you mentioned? What has your own life journey, been like? Doesn't work? Here.
Thank you for the question, sir. Well, personally speaking, my own family background has made me to go in the background of empowerment, because I live in a typical Newari family, in a joint family to be precise, and my father's side and my mother's side family are two different parts, like the water and the sky. Because my father's side, they are a bit conservative type, they are a bit illiterate, and they are traditional type that tends to put up on so many restrictions. Like when I was a bit smaller age and I was just starting my menstruation, even I followed the restrictions strictly. Because my grandmother used to scold me, my grandfather used to put the restrictions and all that. But my mother's side, they are a bit free and frank, they are educated, and thus they don't so follow the restrictions as strictly as it should be. And sir, what was the question again?
So from what you're saying, you grew up in a good family.
Yeah.
And so do you call those restrictions or do you call those family values?
Yes, both sides it collides. Even I'm a bit confused because I'm the middle layman, I'd say, because even I think that this father side family who put me in discipline has taught me discipline, and that side they have supported me and have uplifted my opportunities to go for the empowerment as well. So learning from both sides of my family, I have considered myself to start this empowerment.
Very good, very good. So you have the family support.
Yes.
You have a very good education.
Yes.
And
yes.
so those are two probably important variables that you have mentioned that enables you to do what you do.
Yeah.
So let me come to Asha. So in terms of empowerment, right? And I know you're in the media, you're events, you're part of a upcoming startup company. So can you tell us a little bit about what empowerment means to you?
So, for me, empowerment is being able to engaging ourselves in the things, in the decisions that matters to us the most. For me, being empowered is just being able to stand up for yourself or for others, and to speak for yourself and to speak for it. Let me give an example. You're walking down the road and you see a poor beggar treated pathetically by a strange man. You know that's not good, you know he should not be treated like that, and you go to that man, that strange man, and take the stand of the beggar and make that stranger realize that he is wrong, what he is doing is not good. That's being empowered. Being empowered does not always mean to create a huge impact in a society, because all those little things that we do in our daily life will surely create some impact in our life or in others' life. I think every people, be it a small boy or an old man or an old woman, girl or a boy, everybody is capable of doing something. They have a voice of themselves. So when they go and stand up in the society and when they do what they want, I think that's being empowered. So,
Very good. So let me just hold on to the mic. So you're saying basically 2 or 3 things here. So one is the ability to make decisions, okay, to take decisions, and so that's a very important thing. But also you're saying, to some extent, you look at society and you have to constantly make a decision as to what I do or do not do. But then the third thing you're also saying is that you have the capacity, right, the capability, to do things. Let me just ask you a follow-up question. Can you give a recent example of where you felt that your decision-making process was inhibited or limited, and so you were stuck, and it was very frustrating?
Okay, I'll give my own example. It happened just a month ago. I was on my period. It was my first day. I was very hungry, very hungry. I was starving, and it was Saturday. My mother wasn't in my house. My sister was studying as she has SLC coming up. She's preparing, and I don't want to disturb her. And my father was having lunch. I just got up. I got up at around 11, and I went straight into the kitchen because usually at my house I am alone because my mother and father goes to work and my sister goes to school. So it doesn't matter if I enter the kitchen or anywhere. So thinking that, I normally went inside my kitchen and served myself the food. And suddenly my father comes and scolds me. He started giving so many explanations why we shouldn't be doing that. And when I started, I know that's not, it's not that, it's usual in other societies, in other cultures, it's usual. So when I put some logical points on him, I automatically became the disgraceful child of my family, like parents. We cannot even put our logical points with our parents because they start mukmuke laksas, and also I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that disgraceful child, and even if I say politely, they automatically starts to scold us. So my father told me, go and leave your house if you're going to do this. Go and leave. You're not allowed to stay in my house if you're going to enter my kitchen in your period. I was speechless. My father told me that, and I didn't know what to do. I had around 600 rupees in my bag. I took my bag, changed my dress, and went to city center and watched a movie. And then I called one of my school friends, and I went to her, and I didn't even pick his call for the entire day. And my mother knew that I go to kitchen when I am on my period, but she also scolds me, but not as much as my dad does. So I went there, I stayed there, and my mother called me the next morning, and she said, we are sorry, you can come and do that. And nowadays when I'm on my period, I am still scared to go inside kitchen when I'm in front of my dad, but I definitely go inside it when my mother and sister are around.
So now this is where for the audience and for the panel, it's just amazing that when young people share their personal stories, this is very empowering, right? Because this is not about others, this is not about a general view of society, but an incident that you have to face. And so it is very easy to say judgmental on society, but then when it happens to yourself, then we all realize how tough these things are really. So Loren, so obviously you look at empowerment from a more political eye. I don't know, but it looks like you want to empower young people, to get into politics, to understand politics, but also to see through politics you want to change Jamaican society. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Game. from what I'm about to present to you. But before any of that can take place, I know that we all just ate, and we're all about to nap maybe, or it's probably coming on a little. So I'll just ask for you all to stand with me, please. And I'd like you to repeat after me. I can if I believe, and I will. One more time for me. I can if I believe, and I will. Thank you. Now, there's a very important thing when we're speaking about empowerment. We have to allow our minds to be willing to accept the information, else it would be all for nothing. Nothing would have been achieved, and we'd be at the same point because we'd have learned nothing. If we don't allow ourselves to garner the knowledge that the panelists and the moderator are going to be presenting, then nothing would have been accomplished. While we present, while we explain, and I know I left out my name and my accomplishments, because I mean, I've allowed you all to stand for about 2 minutes now, which means I've had your trust, so it should no longer be that important for now. I'd like to give 3 explanations or 3 scenarios that I'll be using for the remainder of the presentation, that will be guiding for the entire conversation for the life. The first scenario would be Thomas Edison, the gentleman that created the light bulb. He failed 1,000 times before finally creating the light bulb. That never stopped him. The second scenario I'd like to use, we were all once babies, and we thought that walking would have been a great feat, but we are now all standing. The final scenario I'd like to use, I'd have been walking around today and asking persons what they see. You see a glass that is half empty. I see a glass that is half filled. You use your imagination. I see a glass filled with opportunities. And of course the normal, one that will keep me alive. So enjoy, be open to listen, ask a lot of questions, because this is the section where we really take off, garner, and learn so we can take back.
Okay, so good. So I hope the blood is circulating. So, based on what he said, let me ask you a question. So you said basically that, if you look at failure, so Edison failed many times and then he succeeded, but babies probably look at, people who are standing and then wonder if they can ever do it. And then the glass, half full or half empty. So based on this, can you tell us a little bit about how this has, basically worked in your own life, to empower Jamaica or Jamaican society?
Okay, so I'll use the most recent scenario. Me getting funding to be at the Glocal International Team Conference. I asked over 100 persons to help me to garner the plane fare to get here. And out of the 100 persons, every single person told me no. Every single 100 person told me no. But you may wonder, how am I sitting here today? Because that one person said yes. That one person after the 100 said yes. Your compulsion for not giving up, for not stopping when you have failed, it's never failure, but more temporary roadblocks. As soon as you begin to move them and continue to move, don't deter from your ultimate goal, because you know your purpose. And that's how you can get there.
So very good. So this is how he got to Kathmandu. So because he asked for an air ticket 101 times and then did not care about the first 100 no's. And so this is very important, for us to understand, because, we think success comes at an easy, price, and it doesn't. So let me just move the conversation a little bit to this notion of teams. Okay, so now for each one of you, I'm sure as young people, you struggle, to form teams around your ideas. And so as individuals, I know the reason why you're on this panel is because you're probably exceptionally good at what you do. But then it takes an effort to really build a team. So in this part of the world, very often we say India, Nepal, we're over 2 billion people, but the chances that we'll ever form a football team for the World Cup is quite scarce because 11 Chinese, 11 Nepalese, and 11 Indians don't work together very well. And so this is just something that we have to realize is a culture and an effort that we have to make. So Larissa, Asna, and Roden, how do you basically get friends, family, and you mentioned the community to rally around your ideas? So do you have some ideas of how we can empower, this immediate, circle of friends or family or community beyond empowering ourselves? Larissa, would you like to start?
Again, this is a very overwhelming question, and forming a team is really a very hard work as I'm just a beginner in this empowerment panel. I just started getting a bit extrovert. I'm also, as I said, I used to stay in my father's disciplinary family, and I was quite an introvert, I'd say. But starting my career as a public health student, I started going a bit outside world, and my next family supported me to be an extrovert and explore more about this empowerment level. And so, talking about forming a team, I think it is different in the form of friends, it is different how we perceive in a family, and it is different how we perceive in a community. Starting from the family myself, there are so many restrictions for me as well, and whenever I have a big brother as well, and considering the importance of son again, I am not so considered and my works are not so appreciated. It is the past experience. I mean, nowadays it is appreciated because I am doing the right thing. I know I'm doing the right thing, and I tend to say that, and they are also starting to accept that, yes, she's doing the right thing. She's going through her choice, yes, she's going against us, but still, people are appreciating her work. That means she must be doing something good, so we don't have any problems. You show them the work. They normally, us people, we are so judgmental that we search for evidence. If the evidence is nice, then we search for the proof that it is nice, then only they accept it as the nice. So you just show them your work. Just just don't look at what they will say, how they will criticize. Just show them that you can do it, then automatically they will start accepting it as whole, that it is the right thing to do. As for friends, they are our peer groups. They understand what we want to do, and normally it is easier for me to communicate with them, forming a team, working with them, because our ideas collaborate together and we have similar kind of ideas. But sometimes even while working as a team with our friends, our ideas clash. Their idea we might not like, our idea they might not like, and in between we have this let's not talk to each other kind of version, but still we can overcome it because friends are friends. They understand our ideas. We are the same kind of, we have mindset, and thus working as a team like that, we have to assort it. We have to work accordingly. We have to know how to deal with the people, how according to family, friends, and like that.
Very good. So, one of the things you're mentioning here is that you do have to be evidence-based.
Yes.
And so people are not going to trust you because you keep on saying it, but then you can empower people with proof, you mentioned, evidence, and then at some point with results, right? And so let's go to Asna. And so just asking you the same question, you have an idea, you feel very empowered. Now, how do you then engage, people around you to buy into your idea?
So, well, my case is very different than Lirisha. I don't have a supportive family like her, and neither supportive friends. A year ago, I went to my mother and I asked her, "Mom, can you lend me some money? I want to start my own startup." She said no. She simply said no. And now today, after a year, when I tell her about my idea, she says me that, "Do you want some money? I can help it with you. Like, if you can get some profit, I will definitely put it for you. I can definitely use it for you." A year that, but they wanted to go every day, but I couldn't go, and I also didn't have any time to go there. So later on, years passed by, and I started losing my friends. Now, like, I barely have 1 or 2 friends who stick with me, and also when I put my ideas with them, they don't show any interest. And what I have learned is that if you want to do something, something with someone, some friends, you have to search for a similar kind of personality. And I happened to meet with a brother. He was 3 or 4 years older than me. It was Ashish Tai, Kasuldi. They were organizing Glocal MUN. So sadly it didn't happen, but for a day I met him and I started talking with him. I started networking, and then I along with him started a company. Yeah. So and for community, I don't think we have to. We need them for our own to start our own company, because our company or startup. If we do something, if they see us on TV, they start to follow us. They come to us and take pictures and talk with us. I just believe in what I want to say is don't talk, don't explain yourself, just prove the world.
Very good. So very, very important, right? So lesson. Now let me just start with what you said first. The first thing you said was it takes a while, it takes time, and so patience to some extent is something. So people won't buy ideas immediately. But the second thing you also mentioned is that once society begins to recognize your work, and then suddenly you're on a panel like this, then people begin to change their mind a little bit because they say if they're on the global panelists, they must have done something right. So those recognitions are important. But the third thing you also mentioned is when you take leadership, don't expect like a whole crowd to be behind you. It'll be a few friends, maybe 2 or 3. And so this hopefully in the audience it breaks the myth that when you bring change in society, that suddenly everybody will follow you, that suddenly there'll be a whole mass behind you. This is simply not true. And so it's very important to learn that. But also what you're saying is that it is very important to initially form a group of like-minded people. And so we share your values, we share your passion, and so from that small circle, you can start expanding. So, I hope, for the young people in the audience, you are really getting this, because these are true stories, life stories, from where, we can learn. So Roland, I'm going to go back to your baby and adult analogy. So when did you realize that you were a baby? And then at what point in some work that you did you realize that you were walking and running?
When I first started Jamaica Youth Motivators, which is the youth organization that I lead in Jamaica, that basically goes into various high schools and we speak on various topical issues, such as sexual reproductive health rights and various issues affecting men and kids. Now, my first couple of visits, I was alone. My follow-up visits, I was still alone. To date, I have over 300 members who are currently in the organization, and that has been over a 3-year span. That didn't come overnight or come simply because, oh, I like the message and I appreciate what you said. But it comes from the individual who is leading and the person who has the message to deliver, the person who is helping to train. So there are 3 key points that each individual needs to possess whenever they're thinking to have persons around them. One of the most important ones is confidence. You can't say you want to rally persons to go in and storm a building to change the message that is being said about menstrual cycles without believing the message yourself. It won't work. No one will listen. No one will buy in. Because if you're not confident in your message yourself, why should we listen? Why should we support? The next major key factor is tolerance. Like-minded people within your organization is very important. But it's also true that you should be able to not let race and religion affect the persons who you network with or whom you're working with, because you limit the amount that you can achieve. And because of far too long, we as a nation, as a global hemisphere, have been limiting ourselves because of race and religion and politics. And if we are thinking any sort of change, then we have to think of a culturally shifting change, one that will let us stop limiting to race. I came in an unfamiliar place and I'm enjoying myself. I am networking, I am not limiting, I am having fun. Key factors. And if there's any persons within the audience who currently believes that cooperation isn't necessary, I ask you to look at a four-wheel drive. Take off one of the wheels and tell me what happens.
Very good. So the three things, again, A, to believe in your ideas, because if it doesn't come with sort of the internal buy-in, and if you haven't internalized it yourself, the message is going to be very weak. And so, you yourself believing in the idea becomes key. You also mentioned tolerance. So I think in society, there are going to be a lot of people with different views. People will attack your ideas. People will just basically, say, this is not serious. And so the ability to tolerate, those kinds of things, because then the world, also will reciprocate. So I think that, is very important. But also you mentioned cooperation. And so, the four wheels have to work together. And so you cannot always be saying, I don't care what the three wheels are doing, I'll do it in a different way, because that will be another long struggle in life. And so at some point you'll get fatigued. You'll get tired of doing these things. So I want to switch a little bit more. And so now we're still on this topic of empowerment, right? And so Larissa, in your presentation you mentioned, for example, with menstrual hygiene, there was actually a piece of legislation that bans, chopari, which is the system of putting young girls, out into the shed, when they menstruate. Now, laws can be one part, policy can be another, rules and regulations, the way society enforces. But then what I want to really draw the attention of young people in this audience is, how many of you watched the World Cup recently? The World Cup football, okay? So this is what is really amazing about the World Cup this time, was that Croatia, which is a small country with 4 million people, actually made it to the finals. But you'll also notice that Holland and Italy, which were very large football teams, actually did not make it into the final rounds, whereas Japan and Korea did. And the reason is because the level playing field, where young people, young countries, small countries, they also have a chance. Okay? So when you think of the enabling legislation, when you think of enabling policy, it is basically to help you to succeed. Okay? Now, can you tell me a little bit about your happiness that something is happening, or your frustration as to why things are not happening, because your work, needs, a little bit of facilitation, like the referee, like the video assisted, refereeing in the football, that will help you to move a little faster and win. So tell me a little bit about your frustrations in terms of policy, legislation, that allows you to empower, society.
Okay, so talking about politics, I'm really not that interested in politics, and honestly speaking, I really don't understand the politics of Nepal especially. The written laws are so good if we read about in the laws and all, but the implementation is so weak in our Nepal. Actually, the laws written are even more better than US, I have heard so, but the implementation is very poor. And yes, I have some frustration because we teens are considered still a bit, we are inferior to the, inferior in aspects of politics, and we are not given that opportunity so that we can voice our thoughts in politics. Even if we try, our thoughts are just, it's in the air, just in the air, it gets dissolved among the older generations. If we see in the prime ministers and all, they all are so old. But nowadays, I think the politics needs to run according to the needs and aspirations of the young generation. So yes, this politics also sometimes creates a hindrance for our the empowerment level of our teens, especially because while we start to try bring some change, we start to do some programs, the questioning is there. Even if we go in the schools, the older generation asks us, do you have some ID proof that you are going to make this program effective? Do you have some written consent? Did the government send you? Did the older generation give you permission or something like that? They don't trust us at all. So I think that politics needs to trust the young people as well so that we can carry out our problems effectively. And we teenagers should also somehow give the pressure upon the government and to involve ourselves, to keep on voicing our thoughts so that we can put up our thoughts and views in the politics and go along collaborating with the older generation as well.
Very good. So from what I hear, you're saying two things. One is there may be law, there may be policies, but the implementation is very weak. So this is something that I think all of us realize. But the second thing you also mentioned was that young people are also away from politics and so not really engaging, and so which can be a challenge because the politicians do have a bigger say in society, and so if you don't engage them, then that can be frustrating because they will ask you for that ID card or for that piece of legislation, and so at some point you will hit this as a wall as well. Now Ashna, let me ask you something very simple. All the political changes that have happened in Nepal, with women's empowerment, with the new constitution, with new laws, some of the challenges that you have faced and some of the opportunities that you see ahead, do you feel an enabling society is being created where some of the challenges you faced in the past will no longer be a problem, and so it'll be easier and easier for younger girls after you to do what you aspire to do?
Nowadays, what I see is there are more opportunities for women than for men. My male friends comes to me and say that, can you search a job for me? Like you earn from such a young age. Can you give us some job, and can you take us to some organization that that will help us earn? So I think the politics has helped Nepal to get better and better in the field of empowerment. Before few years ago, there were more men in every field, but nowadays when I see there more female in each and every field, be it in IT or in science or in entrepreneurship, the women are getting higher and higher, and there are men who are lacking behind. I think men are getting forgotten nowadays. Because I think people are taking feminism in a whole lot of different sense, because they say that feminism is just giving opportunities for girls, and according to our law also people are working towards feminism, but feminism actually means giving equal rights and opportunities for both male and female. So people are forgetting about men, so that is creating that is creating a bit more challenge in nowadays.
So that opportunities are opening up for women, but also you mentioned that more and more women are actually earning at a younger age, and so that earning can then be translated into capital, then into empowerment, because they have the independence, the financial or monetary independence to make more choices. And so this is very important because economic independence also leads to empowerment. But then what you don't want to see as society, which again is too, so basically not forgetting the men, but basically marginalizing that other half, so that again society gets the new disparities that you don't want to see. Roden, so this is very fascinating, right? When you think of people working with whether it's sexual issues, whether it's jobs and economy, and so the question really is, do we need to do a lot more in terms of enabling environments, in terms of empowering young people? Laws, policies, politics.
Right. And I would just refer to the main instance. Other persons will assume that current system society are also being marginalized. There are more women attaining a higher degree. There are more women finishing high school. And there are more young men sitting on the corners and shooting people. I remember when I was just about to do my entrance exams to high school, I was under my bed, scammering because they were firing shots all over the place. And they weren't women, they were men. So this problem does exist. And as it relates to sexual health and reproduction, that is not allowed to be taught in schools. Persons aren't allowed to speak about sex in any form of manner as long as it's descriptive in schools. And that's a major blockage, and as it relates to religion as well. Because it's perceived that if you teach persons about how to use a condom or about how to take care of your bodily fluids, then they're going to want to use a condom. And that's madness. Because if they want to do something, they're going to do it nonetheless. Why not equip them with the knowledge and empower them with the thought necessary for them to be safe? So as it relates to our politics and our legislations, there are flaws. There are things that needs to be implemented and needs to be revised. That's why I take personal interest as it relates to representation of politics. Because I believe that there are tons amount of work that needs to be done and reformation to come. But that cannot just come from just pure talk. It has to come from sessions like these, where we empower, we allow for the movement to spread, not just within one country. Because when it spreads like a wildfire, it won't stop burning. And that's the aim.
Very good. So, again, very good. So again, this is very important because, people will make those choices, right? And that's the whole idea of empowerment, is that people have the choices and they will make those choices. But then the question is, how informed is that choice? Was it an informed decision or was it an ignorant, decision? And so this again becomes a critical part of empowerment. So what I'm going to do is just, rest a little bit. Let's see in the audience, how many of you actually have a question for the panelists? Okay? So just, to the organizers, it's on my watch is 3:02, which means we've spent an hour between your presentation and the panel. How much more time do we have? 30 more minutes? Okay, so we're good. Okay, so who has the mic on the floor? Is there a mic? Okay. And then is there somebody who will help us pass the mic? Okay, so let's start with you. But now, question or is it an opinion?
It's a question.
Very good.
All right. So my question is basically for all three panelists. Let's take a hypothetical situation where you're financially sound, you have enough money, and at the same time you have all the resources and the power that you require. What is that one movement or one change, or what is that one thing that you would start off towards this issue? What is that one thing that you would want to do if you had all the resources, power and money to get implemented and solve this entire crisis?
So just hold your thought. Let's do a few more.
Okay, so this is my question. I have a question for the two Nepali speakers. It will be a drawback if you work for the society, but you don't know much about politics. Especially in a country like Nepal, where the government has a great impact on the society. I just give an example, like if you want to do some activities to develop the economy, but in your country, there are some rules of the government that limit it, then how can you, then it's very hard for you to change, right? And in my opinion, because politics affect you every day, every step, every aspect of your life, even the water you're drinking. So I think it's important to know about politics. What about your opinion? Yeah.
Okay, so let's take those three first, and then we'll come back to you. So I think these are easy questions. Larissa, go ahead.
I didn't get the second question, which was
So a
proposed
piece of
by you.
advice.
Could you
Do you have a piece of advice to them?
please frame it a bit slowly.
Okay. So meaning, so the first question is, if there was, you have unlimited resources, what is the one thing you would like to change? The second is, do you have a piece of advice that you would like to give? And the third is, can you really ignore politics, moving ahead?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so starting from the first question, if I be financially sound, I have the power, I have the resource. First of all, I think that even though we want to empower everything in every section, we cannot do it at all. We have to focus our attention upon bringing a change or bringing some kind of change in just one issues. So first of all, I would be traveling around knowing the one general issues that is so highly prevalent, that in which needs more attention, and I can focus my entire empowerment, like advocating or something like that, so that I can bring that issues to betterment. And with my help of financially sound power and resource, I'll travel around the world. I will do what I can in that one particular issue. For the second question, one piece of advice that I would like to give is, don't think about what others will judge you. Do what you think is right. If you think that you are doing the right thing, then surely you feel yourself stigmatic. You yourself are stigmatic a bit. You yourself might be emotional, and there will be several things that would hold you to not achieve that goal. But still, that advice would be that don't care about anybody else. Just hear what your inner thoughts is. Just go forward with what you think is right in your opinion, and then prove it, and then you'll get the success. And for the third question, the activity about the politics, may I have a bit of support what I'm supposed to
So basically,
answer?
in a country like Nepal, where politics is very important, it influences everything we do. Can you really ignore, politics in your work?
Yes, politics is quite important in one aspect, but as I said, especially contextualizing Nepal, we are not given so much priority in the political level. So it is us that whatever we can do in the local level, we have to try doing it in ourselves. Talking about myself, I tend to go upon the peer education. Friends tend to understand more. So I think that peer education is very important. And if we start educating our peers, if we start the awareness, and if we collaborate together in our peer education, then I guess politics will also start realizing that, hey, they are doing something good. I think we should have a look upon, and then again they'll focus upon us, because we peer together will be accumulating a huge accomplishment already, and so the political will have a focus. So first, even the politics demands evidence, and so we should try that we show that evidence to them, so that political focus will be upon us.
Very good. So it is a little bit of a chicken and egg, for you. Very good. Asna?
So, okay, the first question was, if we have everything, if we know everything, and what would we do if we have to do something, even though if we know everything and if we have everything, right? Am I right? So, yeah. For an example, let's take an example. I want to do something, and I know how to do it. I have proper plans, I have proper model, I know everything, but I don't know how to start it. There are tons of people who will give us proper mentorship on it. You can, even if any one of us are confused, you can even go to Anil sir and ask for mentorship. He won't hesitate. You can go to Bisam Dai and ask for mentorship. Any one of them will surely give you mentorship and help you do that thing if you really want to do that. So I want to answer the third question. Here in Nepal, teenagers have a belief that politics is misconception, I'll say misconception, that politics is not a good thing, it's really bad. But it's not that. Politics is really very important. Yes, it affects in some way, but they are good in their way. And if we really want to do something, I don't think politics can affect us. They won't stop us from achieving them. And the second one, the piece of advice, I want to say that if you want the change, be the change.
Very good.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
All right, thank you. Now, just for confirmation, the first question you would have been asking, if it is that I had all the money and the power and all that, what one thing would I do to try and change things?
Right.
Okay.
What would you change?
All right. So, having money and the power isn't the only thing that's necessary to actually promote change. Now, if it is hypothetically speaking, however, that I had all the power or a majority of it and the money that would be required, that's often a limiting factor to actually promoting change, then what I would do specifically is to have subgroups that focus specifically on certain topics, key issues affecting individual persons and individual nations. Because as my friends on the panel would have noted, that quality is better over quantity. So if you have persons within subgroups who are focused on specific issues, and you can dispense them over a particular area, and they can have sessions where they're interactive, as they're promoting learning, because ignorance is often the problem as it relates to most issues within the society. Because persons aren't knowledgeable and receptive of the information provided. So promoting this knowledge would be one of my major initiatives and targets if it was that I had that kind of power and money. Then answering the second question, the best advice that I would give, I would tell each and every person who desires success to take a piece of paper to write your goal. Not any 100 goals, but your specific goal. That one thing. Dig deep inside. That one thing that you want to achieve in life. Write on a piece of paper. And then below that, write what is it going to take me to reach to this goal. And after you have written that, start working. And never stop. Even after you've reached that goal, set another one. In answering the third question, could you just rephrase again for me, please, a little slower?
Can we ignore politics in this process?
Okay. So, was that a question posed to me as well, just to clarify?
It was to the two of them, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. I personally believe, and this may be coming from a biased perspective, but I'm going to keep it as neutral as possible, that politics and the political scheme of things is very necessary because it involves the whole legislative process, rules and governance within a society. And any decision making happens in politics. The major decisions being made that affects each and every one of us is made around a political table, within a cabinet, or with the persons who have the right to make those decisions. So I don't believe that as a nation, we should per se ignore politics. What I think we should do per se, if we don't have a vested interest in, say, politics, is understand it. Because ignorance is what causes problems. If you're able to understand the way our decision makers are thinking, then you can convince them to think otherwise. And that's why it's very important, even if you don't want to actively participate, but to understand what they're trying to do and how you can implement different things by convincing them. The third question, which I'm not sure exactly, but you can tell me if I'm wrong, where we were asking the support that this education system or the school system gives to my movement, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, in relation to certain factor, the schools are welcoming because Jamaican students are, a lot of them, they're mostly focused on posting on social media, on putting up derogatory images, harming their brand, because each of us are personal brands. What we do affects us inadvertently without us even realizing in the moment. A college person goes on our Twitter account or our Instagram account and sees that one picture of us doing something that we weren't necessarily supposed to be doing, and our application gets denied. So the school system is willing, but it goes to a degree. They don't, as I said earlier on, they don't appreciate persons coming and demonstrating how to use a condom. They don't appreciate persons coming to speak to young ladies about their menstrual cycle, or how to take care of themselves, or how to keep a proper hygiene. That's not necessarily appreciated because it's looked down and it's frowned upon. So what I do in regards to that, I have my general sessions in which I speak on the issues that they will allow to be spoken about. And because I am so motivated to ensure that each topic is touched, I have breakout sessions. Sessions that are a little bit more intimate. I'm sitting around a table where the educators won't be hearing what is being spoken about. And that is when I engage about our menstrual cycle, about suicide. And that is when the real issues are really touched on during those little breakout sessions that are specifically targeted to focus on those issues.
Very good. Okay. So very good. Thank you. So let me, just build on what Roden, mentioned. So just in the audience, can I just ask, to show your hands, how many of you have actually a written goal? How many of you feel that, you have a goal and you have actually written it down and you feel quite comfortable with it? So this is very good. Now, secondly, how many of you have also found out the one thing that you're going to do to meet the goal? Some action, something that you actually will do. And how many of you feel that, this is a process, and so when this work is done, you will just simply get up and write another goal? Okay, Roden, you're getting across. I think, we're getting there. And so this is very important. So it's a very wonderful process that you write down your goal, you write down exactly how you're going to do it, you then start doing it, and then when you complete it, you just write another one. And so this is a very good, process that we should use, for our future conversations. Now, obviously, Larissa, Asna, and Roden, you've all started at a very young age, and then, some of the things that you're sharing are from your own experience, and hence are very valuable. And so just let's see if there are a second set of questions. One, any more hands? Two, they can say, yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead. Can you be a little louder? Speak to the mic. Yeah.
My question is to all the panelists. What do you think the world really lacks in terms of empowering women, and what you and we as a youth can do to overcome it? Thank you.
Okay, just pass it. Yeah.
So my question is to all the panelists. What do you see 10 years down the line? Do you think people will still need empowerment, or do you think people will be capable enough to empower on their own?
Very good. So just push the mic to the back. Yeah, so 10 years down the road, where do you see, this whole issue of empowerment, being, or, where will we be, when you look down 10 years down the road? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My question this time is to all the panelists. My question is that you are all working on your fields. That's distinctively and appreciable. My question is that when you are working, of course, there are so many challenges. And so what do you do to keep yourself always motivated? And are you all the time motivated towards doing what you do? Thank you.
Very good. Just let's take one in the back also, way back.
Yeah. So my question is quite similar to his. So my question is to all the panelists. So you might sometimes feel demotivated by various factors like the society, like
even our family doesn't support us sometimes. So like I think that self-motivation and self-empowerment is vital among all. So how do you keep yourself like self-empowered, or how do you empower yourself?
Very good. Okay. So now again, not easy questions, but what do you feel is lacking, right? So this is the the first question. The second is sort of looking into the future. Where do you see this whole issue of empowerment? But then the challenges that you face. But then the question again is, how do you keep yourself energized? Where do you recharge your battery? I guess. Okay. So who wants to start? Teresa? No, go ahead. Ask me. Well, go ahead.
So I would like to answer the third question first. My challenges, my demotivations, and how I motivated. So I'm a very nature-loving person. Whenever I am demotivated and whenever I feel down, I go to open space and connect with nature. And I give some time to myself. I think, like I really, so many thoughts come in my mind that time, and I think, where do you want to see yourself in next 10 years? What do you want yourself to see you as? So I get a lot of things in my head. So those things motivates me. Yeah, there are times when I am demotivated, especially when the society, when the relatives comes to my parents and says that your daughter is not doing good thing, your daughter is not studying. That time I feel demotivated, and parents also comes and scold us rather than supporting. It's very demotivating. And talking about my challenges, mostly there are two kind of challenges that I faced. One is time management. It's really hard for us to manage our time. Being a teenager, going to school, we have homeworks, assignments, projects. We have to give some time to our friends, families. So that's really hard for us. And the second challenge is convincing my parents. I come from a family background where my parents think if I get good grades, then I'm a good kid and I will definitely have a bright future. But if I get bad grades, then I'm a bad kid and I won't have any future. So convincing them is really very difficult. And even if we convince them, there comes another relatives coming up and saying, I saw your daughter with some strange man. There was incident few months ago. I was in a meeting with my business partner, and one of my relatives saw us and went to my parents and said that I saw your daughter with a guy. And my mom scolded me, and I convinced her. Yeah, it took time, but she was convinced. So yeah, everybody have ups and downs in their life, and if we have downs, we just need to believe in ourselves and go to our goal, achieve our goal, work for our goal, and yes, we can finally achieve it.
Very good.
For the first question about thinking about how the empowerment, what is lacking in the empowerment panel, well, I think contextualizing in Nepal and even in other countries as well, and from my personal experience, I think it is the stigma themselves that the people hold that is creating a gap for the empowerment level to be more empowered. I think the people should change their thoughts, that they should stop making themselves feel inferior, that they can't do something. They should think that, yes, even though if the change, if the effort and my ideas seem small, I should once give it a try. Maybe it will bring a big change, maybe it wouldn't, but what's the harm in bringing a try? And then if we change our thoughts and if we overcome our own stigmas, then perhaps I think that this empowerment level will go to a higher level. Even talking personally, I'm feeling really scared out here, and it is my really first time, to be honest, in this huge platform, and it is a great opportunity for me, in fact. And I'm trying to overcome my stage fear out here, and yes, I still have the stigma that what I'm going to speak, maybe it may be wrong or it may be right, but also I'm with the thought that it's okay, I don't care because I've already spoken. What's spoken is spoken, and I'm being honest myself. I'm giving my thoughts. I know I'm right, so I'm going to say it. Moreover, I don't care about what others will judge me now. And so I think that first you should overcome your stigma so that you will get more empowered. And for the second question, 10 years ahead, I think there will still be gaps. Nobody is totally satisfied, and you should also not be totally satisfied with what you do, because it will bring a stop to whatever you are doing, whatever the changes is occurring. So I think that 10 years ahead, there surely will be gaps, but still there will be progress as well. Since Rome was not built in a day, also there will be slow progress, I guess, but at least there will be progress. Some issues will surely be eliminated. Like if we talk about the health issues, we have already eliminated the polio that had been existing so extravagantly in our country. And we are in the phase of elimination of this prevailing malaria, tuberculosis, HIV and AIDS, which has deeply risen. The progress is slow, yes, but also, like Rodin said earlier, what you see is matters. In that glass of cup, do you see the empty glass or do you see the opportunity? So rather you should focus upon the opportunity that and progress that is happening in the empowerment. The third question is about the challenges and motivation. Yes, I'm an introvert person, and yes, there are times when I think that what am I doing really? Is it even bringing an impact? Whatever I'm doing, nobody's appreciating or nobody's looking up. I think what I'm doing is not good, or what I'm doing is so small, I don't think it's gonna bring change. But then, as I said, I'm an introvert person. I isolate myself for some time from my family as well. They start questioning, are you okay? Are you having fever? Are you having some kind of mood? Because I lock the doors, I just tend to read a lot of novels, do whatever I like, and whatever I feel motivated. Then again, maybe it is a week or it is a day or something like that. Again, the realization hits me, no, you should not waste your time like this. You should do something. You were in the process of being a change maker. What are you doing now? And then again, I start motivating myself and go forward, and then start doing it again. And even my family, luckily I have a very supportive mother, and I have luckily supportive grandparents, so they again welcome me with the saying that, okay, Lirisha is back, she's normal. No, actually they say she's abnormal again. If I start isolating myself, they say that, okay, let us leave her, she's in the phase of being abnormal again. And the last question, it is morely similar, and sometimes personally I like to cry a lot, and it helps me reduce my pressure a lot. And whenever I feel demotivated, I just go to my mother. Mother is my mother, and I cry out everything, and she just sees nothing at all. She just pats me and says, even she knows that, yes, she's my child, it's okay, whatever, cry it out. And then after I cry it out, I realize that I'm okay, and then I just go back to normal life. She also accepts it as normal. That's my motivation, I think.
Very good. So again, this is just quite amazing that, people willing to share their, personal stories, as part of answering. And so you'll see, these panelists are not superhuman beings, but just normal human beings like you and me. And so their coping mechanism, the way they motivate themselves, the way they retreat, the way they energize themselves are very humane, right? But did you know that you're on the big screen and everything is being recorded? Yeah? Good. Okay, Roden?
Okay, so I'm also going to be sharing a very personal story because I feel like it's very important to share. The suit that you see me sitting in, did you know that there's a story behind it? There's usually a story behind some of the simplest things in life. This is the only suit I own. This is the only suit I wear whenever I'm going anywhere. And it's simply because I cannot afford another one. But that does not stop me. One of the things that helps me to be motivated is understanding what I am capable of, where I'm at currently, and where I want to go. The people who are around me, the support, persons constantly saying, we know that you can get there. that helps me to continue pushing and continue working. When I'm leaving from school, sometimes I have no money and I walk my way home. Earlier I mentioned when I just started my organization, I was the only one going to the schools because I was the only one willing to walk to the schools. So it all comes from really knowing where you stand and where you want to go. Another thing that I'll take from is at one particular time, I was mentoring to a class filled with grade 9 students. And there was this particular young man at the back of the class. And at the end of the presentation, he came to me and he was crying in tears. He was like, Radane, are all the things that you mentioned true? And I said, yes. And he says, can I tell you something? I said, yes, you can. This young man told me that his father shot his mother, then shot himself, and asked me if I could become his father. I was touched sincerely. This young man is now one of my main speakers within my organization. Powerful young man. And one would have thought that he would become a gunman or a nuisance to the society. But it's when you stop it, when you help someone and care for them. I don't have much, but the little I have, I am motivated to give. In answering the 10 years and where do I see empowerment going, the truth is, this isn't a question for me. This is a question for you. Because the future is really held within each and every one of your hands. There are various paths that each of you will take after leaving the conference today. You will decide to do with the knowledge that have been bestowed upon you today. And trust me, you have received some very powerful knowledge today. You will decide what you're going to be using it for. And that will determine what 10 years look like from now. So I cannot give an answer to that because you hold the answer.
Very good. Okay, so, we've spent an hour and a half, up here. So if you look at your watch, it should be just past, the 30 mark. And so, if you don't do your job, I lose my job as a moderator as well. So, the point is, it's been really fascinating, to listen to, young people, but then also to engage the young audience. And so a topic like empowerment, could actually be boring because thank God we don't have a panelist who started by saying the Webster Dictionary defines empowerment as, and then it would be like going back to class again, right? So, but it's really wonderful and it's really, heartwarming that each one of you use your own story, your own life stories to help, I think, everybody to understand what empowerment, really means. And I'm sure there's a lot, for everybody to take away, from here. Now, from a gray-haired person, just a bit of advice, as well. So, we're working on a big project called the Buddhist Circuit. So you must have heard about it in the last few days because it was discussed among the head of governments as well. And so one day, a man went to the Buddha and said, I always listen to you. I've always been listening to you, but I'm really tired of listening to you because nothing happened. And so the Buddha, in his own way, looks at this person and says, where do you live? And so the person says, I live in a village called Sravasti. And so the Buddha says, if you keep on saying Sravasti, Sravasti, Sravasti 1,000 times, will you get to Sravasti? And the answer is no. The answer is you have to start walking towards Sravasti. Only then, will the things that you heard really start becoming useful because you've actually started the journey. And so I think from the three panelists, what we are really hearing is that because they started their journey, because they took on a goal, and they decided what they wanted to do, I think they really understand the word empowerment. And I'm sure, from the show of hands, a lot of the audience is already on that path. And so for those of us who are already, moving towards those goals, I think empowerment, becomes a very simple concept to understand. But it's really good to thank the panelists, for bringing the word empowerment to life and sharing their stories, with us. So shall we give them a big hand?